Guards and gates alarms. That is the old story of security. But in a converged world of security, those are just transactions. They're not resilience. And so because of that, security is no longer a cost center. But what it is, security is a value creator. Keith, you've argued that we need to secure the full spectrum. Mm-hmm. Is that about better tech, or is it about a total mind shift that's happening within the boardroom?
It's a combination of both. I think many would argue that we are in perilous times. As a security professional, I've been in the business 30 plus years, and I have not seen such volatility. Volatility internationally speaking, with a war raging in Iran, and volatility domestically speaking, with all the different types of activities that we experience, from protests, from the United Healthcare CEO being assassinated, from the attack on the NFL office. It's running the gambit. And then when you layer in the lack of civility, the polarization, you have a really interesting mix of risk and concerns for your average security executive. So you have to come at it from both ways. You really have to make sure that your technology is a platform and is resourced in a way that it supports, it identifies, and it defends and it protects against all types of risks that may manifest itself towards your employees, whether they're at rest, at play, or at travel. Big deal. And then you also have to make sure that your policies, your training, your support and execution of your team is also at that speed as well. So it's a combination of both. That defends against the risk that we're seeing increasing, it seems like, day by day.
It's no longer just siloed or just affecting this, it's affecting everything.
Absolutely.
All around. Welcome to SecuriTea, where we talk about signal over noise. We talk about integration over silos and action over rage. Today, we are talking with Keith White about why AI-driven resilience is the new standard for global enterprises. So Keith, first of all, can you introduce yourself? Tell me a little bit about your background and what do you do today?
Sure. Keith White, I oversee global safety and security for Salesforce, a pretty big operation that's inclusive of everything that you can imagine, from executive protection, event security, security operations of our wonderful towers around the world, health and safety, crisis management, resilience, intel. It's a full-fledged operation, and it keeps me pretty busy. A little bit about my background. I'm what you call a first-generation security executive.
Okay.
What
does that mean?
Well, a lot of folks in my position, I would say the overwhelming majority, have some level of law enforcement or military background. I have none. So fresh out of college, first job in security, and I've been blessed to have opportunity after opportunity that has gotten me to a place where I've been a global CSO for 2 large organizations.
Man, that is crazy. What was the previous one? The previous organization?
Target.
Okay.
Target Corporation. And I started with them when they weren't that well known.
So you grew with Target.
I grew with Target. I started with Target before Target was called Target. It used to be called Dayton Hudson.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
It used to be a department store that had companies in it like Marshall Fields out of Chicago. It had Dayton's, which was based in Minneapolis. It had Hudson's, which was based in Detroit. And Target was kind of like a little side operation that was growing.
Tucked away over.
And I was blessed to be a part of that growing operation. And obviously, they did a name change. And now Target is what it is now. But
wow.
It was Target before here. And immediately before this assignment was Gap.
Okay.
I was the CSO at Gap for 20 years, which was awesome.
Man, what was used to be Target, Gap, now Salesforce.
Yes.
Man, and taking care of a plethora of things. I imagine that probably keeps you ridiculously busy.
It does, but like anything else, you're only as good as your team. And I have some consummate professionals who are the best at what they do. They cover so much territory. They're on top of so many emerging trends. They're mastering AI right now, and we manage to have fun while we work our butts off.
Sounds like the way that I hear that is hiring great people.
Absolutely. I was talking to a colleague yesterday, and one of the things about hiring great people and being in a leadership role, and I always say this, is you must love people. That's a prerequisite for leadership.
Yeah.
And if you're in a leadership role and you don't love people, please get out.
Yeah.
Not recommended, because a big part of leading good teams, large teams, is being empathetic, being supportive, being inspiring, being caring, all of those things that you want to see in a family, for example. You want to see manifest itself in your leadership, and that comes with a lot of love and respect for the people that you're serving.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed to be able to be in that position.
Servant leader.
Yes.
Servant leader. So we are in Dallas right now.
Yes.
Whenever this actually gets put out there, but we're in Dallas right now, and we are at this conference called IOBSE.
Yes.
How long have you been a part of? Well, first of all, tell everyone who is not aware what IOBSE is.
Sure. First of all, IOBSE has been in existence for almost 40 years.
Okay.
I joined the organization at its 10-year mark. So I've been a part of this organization for about 34 years. And it started with 5 African-American gentlemen at a security conference, as is security conference in New Orleans.
Okay.
And they noticed that there weren't many of us at that conference.
Yeah.
And they met up on a street corner of all things.
Really?
And they said, we need to change this. And they started this organization as an opportunity to increase the representation of people of color, not just African Americans, but people of color in leadership roles in the security field. And they also wanted to build an organization that also supported and propelled those who were in leadership. So not just attracting more leaders of color, but also putting them in position where they could achieve their wildest dreams in terms of success. And I like to think that I'm a poster child for the organization, because I've really been blessed by all the different incredible mentors that I've had access to, the experiences, the speakers, the ability to network across multiple industries, to develop trust amongst people that you care and respect. So it's an organization that's awesome, and happy to be at their spring conference this year.
All right. One final question before we jump into more of the article that we're covering.
Sure.
What has kept you a part of IOBSE for so many years? So if I have the calculations right, it may have been birthed somewhere in 1985, 86,
82.
87, 82.
Yep.
All right. So a little bit older than 40 years. And you joined in 1992, 93, somewhere in that time frame.
92. Very good.
All right. So doing some quick math in my head.
You're good.
But what has kept you a part of the organization for that long?
Every once in a while, you're lucky enough to find something that you're passionate about. And I just happen to be passionate about an organization that overlaps with my career, my field, and the things that I want to do as a human being, first and foremost. I want to help others. I want to see other people be successful. I want them to experience what I experienced in my career. And that's a lot of joy in the work that I do in terms of protecting and serving and supporting others. And so there was an absolute overlap with that. Because sometimes you find passion in an organization that has absolutely nothing to do with your career,
True.
which I respect. And other times you find that combination. And when you find that combination, you're able to work on both. And that's really been a magnet for me because I've been able to see people, over the years grow into some incredible leaders, senior level leaders of large organizations with a lot of responsibility. And I remember when they just walked in the door,
seeing that growth,
fresh out of college or, just starting their career. And that's motivated me incredibly. And then also the opportunity to give back, just as the more senior members and the founders of the organization were able to give to me. I've been able to pass that forward.
Being able to reciprocate that back.
Absolutely.
That handoff for it. All right. So jumping into the article that you wrote on the full spectrum, and you spoke at ISC West this year among this topic, right? And so when you talk about the full spectrum, about what is that real signal for leaders as it pertains to that full spectrum.
Yeah. What I spoke about at ISC West was the convergence of digital security and physical security. They're coming to a point where they're starting to interlock and completely integrate themselves. And I think as security professionals, for the longest time, we saw the two as separate and distinct.
Very much so.
And I think, and also many would argue mutually exclusive. And I think the astute security professional knows that underneath their ground is a bit of an earthquake that's happening if they're not aware of it. And I like to quote Gil Scott-Heron on this: the revolution will not be televised. Okay. So if you're not aware of this revolution that's occurring right beneath your feet, where you're seeing technology with respect to AI, ambient technology, facial recognition, drones, the use of IP cameras, it is incredibly moving, and it's putting themselves in a place where what we did physically is not obsolete, but you can't do it the same way anymore. And you have to marry up the two. And if you don't, one will overtake the other. And before you know it, it'll be driving what you do. You won't be driving it. And I love the fact that I'm seeing security technology emerge in a way that I really hadn't seen it during most of the course of my career. I felt like we stalled out at CCTV and couldn't get any further.
It seemed that way.
And in the last 5 to 7 years, oh my gosh, it's
exponentially,
right? It's just exploded. And you want to be in front of that, and you want to facilitate that convergence. You don't want it to facilitate you. It's going to happen. It's happening. The question is, are we driving it, or is it driving us?
True. So what is one thing that's sitting outside that spectrum right now that keeps CISOs up at night from your vantage point?
To quote an old saying, we don't know what we don't know. And if you ask me what kept me up at night, it's not so much about what I know. It's what I've seen and didn't recognize as being a risk or a threat. I think I worry about that the most, where I observed something, we received the trend report, we've identified something, and we discounted it, ignored it.
Almost as being noise.
As being noise, not a signal. And I worry about missing signals because there's so much coming at us. It's kind of like going to the refrigerator and wanting a drink of water, and there's a fire hydrant in there, and it just and so you get water, but you don't get a drink of it. You don't really quench your thirst.
Taste it,
you only get wet, and there's so much happening. And we have so many signals coming at us that I worry that we miss the real ones. We miss the ones that count the most. That would keep me up at night.
So let me ask you this. Out of the most recent type of threats that have occurred, what is one of the ones that highlights itself to you as it pertains to what you just shared?
I would say the geopolitical movement that's occurring almost at warp speed. We had the issue with Israel and Iran last summer, where if you're a global security professional, you probably had to deal with evacuating people out of Israel last summer. You have the new war now that just started last month with Israel, the U.S., and Iran. And let's call that the epicenter of the earthquake, right?
Okay.
And we all know that the epicenter is horrible, but it's the tremors that really get people, that take down bridges, and that ultimately can hurt and kill folks. Because, miles away, you're having things happen that you just didn't realize could be caused by an earthquake. And I think we're seeing that now where we're looking at the prices of gas, and we're looking at some other things happening that very well may drive threats that we probably couldn't have predicted because we didn't realize that the dominoes fall that far away from the cause. So I think geopolitical wise, all of us as CSOs or security professionals have to, be concerned about, some of those epicenters that are out there that very well could be, causing us challenges that we thought, well, that's 10,000 miles away. How could that be an issue?
How can that
for us?
affect me?
Yeah, it's affecting us. So,
especially like you said, for global organizations where you have the responsibility of protecting people, protecting the organization, protecting buildings that you don't see day to day at all, right? And so all these different sites that are happening around the world, I can't even imagine the level of the different Salesforce offices that are out there that are indirectly affected by just what occurs within the world itself.
Sure. But you got to remember, a big part of our jobs, and this is what I love about what we do, we spend so much time preparing for these moments and being resilient and ready to go. And I feel like we are, and we're ready. But I wanted to answer your question succinctly to say that that's the thing that catches people off guard.
Yeah.
Because they don't realize that the after effects and the dominoes can reach you wherever you're at. And if you're not prepared, or if you didn't prepare for it in the first place, you could have a problem. But the good news about, being a leader at Salesforce is this is almost a prerequisite that we always think about these things, that we drill, that we have redundancies in place, and that we're ready for whatever moment.
How prepared are you? So let me ask you another question. So you have moved from security from being a cost center to being more of a value creator. So let's be honest with that. How do you prove that to actual board that only really sees security as a line item that could or could not be cut?
The cost center idiom around security, I think is obsolete now. I mean,
tell me more.
I really feel like if you're doing your jobs well, and with the risk environment that we've been in, it's called a perma-crisis. This is literally, seems like a crisis a week that we have to deal with.
It does feel that way.
And I actually think that's accurate. Up to and including board members, they've switched, I think, their view of security, because when you look at something as a cost center, you're always picking apart what you could take out. But when you look at something as a value a creator and you really appreciate, what the value proposition is, you're tinkering with what you can put in to make it better, more impactful. Is it doing all the things that you hoped it would do?
Yeah.
And I think we as an industry have shifted more towards that end because, the trend now is to invest more in security and security technology, not less. The question is it an efficient investment? And is it really paying the dividends?
Yeah.
And when you can't,
can't get that value out of it, can't directly
then
speak to it.
you default into being a cost center. But I think we've in the industry, I'm really pleased to say, especially at Salesforce, we really see safety and security as an absolute priority. So we behave that way in terms of how we invest and what we think about our security resources should be and how they're allocated and so forth.
So with what you just said, where do you see the handoff breakdown happening between value creator and cost center, and just we want it to shake hands and move from being more of a value creator, but where do you see that breaking down at?
Invariably, my experience has been the leader has played extremely conservative with their resources and with how they've illustrated what the risks are.
Okay.
They've minimized the risks, and as a result, they've minimized what their needs are. And unfortunately, until a major incident happens, they don't really get the full breadth and depth of access to the resources that they have. So in other words, rather than, and I'm not saying you want to be Chicken Little, but rather than painting a very vivid picture of what the risk landscape is and, what exactly you need to do to be ahead of it, you tuck it in, you don't talk about it, and you pretend like it doesn't exist. And as a result, you miss that moment of making that connection with the leadership and those who would allocate the funds. I mean, you actually have to, make your case, and you have to make it clear, and you have to get people to respect and value it.
Yeah, it is. So what I hear, what kind of triggers the thought of you have proactive and reactiveness of it. And typically people aren't as proactive unless something actually occurs.
That's correct.
And something is more close to home. Yeah. So also with that being said, the other thought that I had was when I used to work at the FBI for a couple of years, back in my early 20s, didn't know what type of job I had until I left there. But during that time period, I worked cybersecurity, mobile forensics to be in particular. And so we would intentionally at times let certain people into our network just to see what they were doing. Now, we put them into a segment of the network so it didn't affect everyone and things of that nature, but it is actually putting proof to those policies that and those standards, things that have been written down, the SOPs, putting it into actual practice. Did this actually work? So a moment ago, you were talking about actually running the drills and whatnot and being prepared for it. And so the lack of preparation with the conjunction of not being proactive within your security stance and how that affects on a wider scale, but you don't know it until something hits close to home.
Well, a good part of any security organization is their ability to test and analyze every weakness that they have and to triage in some cases, because you can't, cover every particular risk in the spectrum. But if you can identify every year the top 2 or 3 risks that you feel like you need to mitigate, and and here's why it would make sense, and here's what we're guarding against, generally you can get support from leadership if you make your case right, and if you've illustrated it well in your tabletop exercises, and in all of your drilling and your training, where you can say, hey, here's what we drill for, and these are the weaknesses that we saw, and here's what we think we can do to shore them up. Generally you can get support for it.
Another question comes to mind, and I'm thinking back to how you started out the conversation with saying how you are a first generation executive, right? With having no law enforcement background, jumping right out of college, right into it. And so what business signals, with that being the preface of that, what business signals do you actually see in these AI headlines that are coming out that the traditional industry is completely missing?
I don't know that they're missing any of the AI signals. What I would probably say is there's slow adaptation, not sure where and when and how it can play in their security operation. And I would argue that we should be, really running towards that solution. Not walking, because I've seen firsthand, some of the benefits of it. And I think it can revolutionize in some cases, what you use your resources for. Because none of us have infinite capacity. And the beautiful thing about AI is it gives you more capacity.
It does.
It gives you more capacity. So if you can get more capacity, what could you do with some of those tabletop exercise results you had in terms of, mitigating risks if you have more capacity and more resources? Because that's the key to AI.
I agree. All right. So last question here. If a leader wants to start the full spectrum resilience this week, what, in your opinion, is one legacy metric that they should delete immediately?
Wow.
Did I stump you?
Yeah. All metrics count, right?
Okay.
But you're right. There could be a legacy metric that you would want to delete. But I think the hard part, the reason why I'm struggling with this question is, it's such a broad question, but it's so individualized in terms of what the response is.
Sure.
Because what I may eliminate as a legacy metric, my retail counterpart at another company wouldn't dare touch that.
Okay.
And vice versa. So I think it's individualized, and I think in some cases maybe you don't eliminate the metric. You figure out a different way of having it speak to you. And that's the beauty of AI. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
In the days where we recorded CCTV.
Way back ago. Are we talking on the VHS?
You can put it any way you want. We had so much footage that never went viewed. And at Salesforce, we would call it trapped data. In today's world, with the advent of AI, none of that is trapped data. You still have all of this footage, but now you have the capability to review every ounce of it and pick up signals that could alert you to potential threats, concerns, or opportunities where you could do things differently that previously you wouldn't even been aware of. Because you didn't have the human capital to monitor all of that footage of CCTV.
Because no one could sit there.
You only responded to alerts or things that you had to action against. And now, and I would argue the same is true with so many other risk signals or legacy metrics, it's no longer trapped data. If you're able to turn an AI tool towards it, it could actually work it for you and come up with a trend, come up with a perspective, or tell you this is all garbage data. Like we shouldn't be looking at this because there's nothing here. But before you just dispense with a particular metric, why don't you see what's there? So, and you don't have to do it yourself. That's the brilliant part.
It's the beautiful thing. The filters that filter out kind of all the noise, or zone in on what we are actually wanting to look for and detect. And so security is not really a transaction. It is more so of having resilience. And so if we want different outcomes, then we have to secure the full spectrum, the entire spectrum. So with that being said, is there anything else that you would want to share just along this topic? You know, maybe something that you may have forgotten to share at ISC.
When I presented at ISC, I really made sure that I did my best to give the full spectrum of the challenges and the opportunities that are out there. The only thing I'll emphasize, and I did this in my presentation, was the fact that if you look at history, if you look at farming, if you looked at the advent of industrialization in factories, if you looked at when the internet was first introduced, there was pushback. And there was, well, this going to work? And is this going to displace this or displace that? There were a lot of people who didn't embrace that. They just felt like it was going to be too displacing.
Yeah.
And I think the same is true with AI. And I really think people should, think about embracing it and how does it make them better as leaders? How does it make their teams more productive? How does it help them mitigate risk? And I think they'll find the same results that we found throughout history.
It speaks for itself.
It speaks for itself. It's like, I know it's a big change, but it's an incredible innovation. And those who get on board and who get on board fast benefit from it very quickly, and it creates its own momentum. And those who, resist, are late adopters, and the benefits for them, at least in the early goings, aren't as great.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you could argue the costs of not doing so may be, overwhelming. So,
no, that's really good. Thanks for emphasizing that point.
No problem.
So, as always, if you drop a headline, I will actually bring the receipts to you. We'll dive into that headline and how we can create frameworks out of it. Keith, thank you for being on the SecuriTea